Welcome to Mayhem to Mastery, leading transformation from the middle, with your hosts, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles. In each episode, we will interview change agents, operators, and advisors who have learned to drive results without relying on formal authority. From process optimization to strategic communication, and yes, even competitive compliance. We break down what it takes to lead well when you're in the middle of it all. Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle, is a podcast for leaders navigating the messy, high-stakes space between top-down strategy and frontline execution. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on our website, concentricglobal.co. Now here's the hosts of Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles.
Hello, and welcome to Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle. I'm your host, Ronii Bartles, and with me is my co-host, James Thompson. And today we have Vince Lombardy with us. Hey, Vince, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Morning, Vince.
Good.
Good morning.
James, I'm going to let you do a quick introduction on Vince and how you know him.
Well, Vince, I know you from the trophy, first of all, Vince Lombardy, and
no Super Bowl tickets this year, but
I mean, come on,
next year.
They use your name, but don't give you the box seats. Come on. Yeah, Vince and I think, go back to 2017, 2018 ish, maybe even before that. I came on site to do a week-long or so training course, and Vince, I think at that point you were leading the HR role, if I'm not mistaken. And so each time I bump into you, you have a different role as a leader. So a man with many hats and an entrepreneur with some creative juices off to the side as well. And every time I bump into Vince, it seems to be like he's up to some other scheme that is really fascinating to me. So that's why he was on the short list of folks to reach out to.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to get started, and we're just going to dive right in, Vince. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on and kind of what's going on in your world?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and congratulations. I mean, I'm more than thrilled to be on this podcast with you guys. This is awesome to be on a forum that we can, share and talk about all the things that keep us up at night and figure out, how to best navigate that. It seems like that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years is just figuring out how to navigate all of this. I started in manufacturing 15 years ago, about 2010. I was on a government contract at a NASA facility and never imagined I'd be in manufacturing ever. Before that, I was on my way to get a PhD in history and become a professor.
Wow.
So this is a complete diversion from my life's path.
Wow.
But it's been a great one.
I was going to say what went horribly wrong, Vince, to put you down the road of
2009.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
I finished my master's degree in 2009. I had already put applications out to PhD school. I had 5 that I was eyeing, and everything went wrong in the market. And what they don't tell you, which I found out, PhD school for history is 10 years minimum and about $100,000.
Wow.
So that was a heavy decision, but ultimately it put me in just such a different world and exposed to things that I never thought I would be touching in my life. I started in industrial safety. I finished another master's degree, worked over into HR, organizational training and development. I ended up moving my wife from Charleston to New Orleans, so she always wanted to come back this way.
Okay.
And we made the leap back over in around 2015. And that's when I joined an organization. We're focused on automotive manufacturing, which was just a completely new world. That's where James and I connected. And today I've made a kind of another leap in my career. So I've moved away from manufacturing. I'm in logistics now, more logistics transloading. So I'm the vice president of transload activities for Harbor Logistics.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
I want to know how your history degree has helped you in this career.
Ah, good question.
Oh, yeah. I look at everything way too deeply.
Okay.
You know, it has, it really has, in terms of I think my ability to research things, and where a lot of leaders get frustrated and we want quick answers and we want to just move on. I find some gratification in doing that homework and that research. And when something goes wrong, I want to know why and what can we do differently to prevent it from happening again. I heard early on in my career, I heard a lot of individuals use the term Monday morning quarterback, and it was always taken as a negative thing. But I don't see it that way. We're always going to have problems, and when they happen, we need to face it head on and figure out what happened. Where did we deviate from process? Where are there process failures? Where do processes not even exist? And what can we do differently going forward just to ease this pain in the organization,
Yeah, you're speaking my language too, right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, interesting that there's a lot of mayhem within that, like particularly when there's no formal processes for things or they break down somewhere. So talk to us a little bit about like how you tackle that when you've come across something that's just been chaotic.
Using some recent examples, I came into this organization last year. We were in the middle of a cultural transformation. None of our success would have been possible without the team around me. I mean, my managers, my management team, we are leading as a team. We make team decisions. So, it's even more important when a process breaks down or deteriorates. We are evaluating it as a team because there's usually multiple stakeholders. I think early on in my career, I probably felt the pain and was burned by trying to run in and be that firefighter and hero and save the process. And you can do it, you can prop it up in the short term, but the longevity isn't there when you don't have that team buy-in.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that stood out to me as a leader, Vince, in terms of your style and how you're different from some of the other leaders that I've worked with is, first of all, in starting with history and, going through the spectrum of HR, safety, where especially on the safety side, you could be dealing with life or death situations. You could be dealing, it's people's lives and well-being that are at stake. And to see you shift over to, some operational leadership and in various domains. And the thing that really stood out to me was, and I would say this is just an entrepreneurial drive that you have, that's balanced really well with your leadership skills. And that is, you're not going to wait around for somebody else to solve a problem for you. One example that always comes to mind as a best practice is I think it was a safety alert system that you put together where anyone on the shop floor or anyone in the facility could take out their camera, take a photo of the QR code, and it would pull up a Google form. They could fill out the form to say, here's here's an alert that something is risky, or I'm seeing something maybe you don't, leadership, and it goes right out in instant communication. You created that. You didn't wait for somebody to create it for you. And I really respect that. I think that's a great attribute. You know, if I'm hiring somebody, those things aren't really evident, you know, but as you're in the trenches with someone like you're going to grab the shovel and do the digging. And I think that's really cool.
I appreciate the compliments. I've always been a problem solver. So I think in the workplace, it works perfectly, you know, for my marriage, maybe not so much, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes she just wants to vent. She doesn't need her problem solved. I'm figuring
Yeah.
that out.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I'm learning there, you know, but
Yeah. I have 3 girls and I still haven't figured that out, Vince. So it's tough. It's really tough.
It's difficult to disassociate. You know, you've been dealing with issues all day at work, and then, you know, on that ride home, that's usually our check-in, and we're just venting the day. And, you know, I find myself trying to, like, in my head, solve her problems, and I'm thinking to myself, she doesn't want to hear that. You know, I'm just shut up and listen. You know, I figured that out to at least to that point. But you know, it's
very smart.
It's really I've always liked bringing creative solutions to the table, you know, and I like to surround myself with individuals who kind of bring that same approach. And what I love about where I'm at today is the team that we have here. We're really driving some significant innovation in how we think and interact, how we communicate. And it just, you know, that momentum you get off of just bouncing ideas off each other and building out these processes, it catches fire, and everybody gets motivated, and it's this wind that just lifts everybody up, and you just get going. And even how it's received on the floor, you know, we are designing processes with the user in mind, and we've got to keep that at the forefront of what we do, because ultimately they're the ones running the processes. It's got to work for them, or it's gonna fall apart, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
We've been working on that a little bit, of like, how can you bridge, you know, strategic planning and like the leadership level down through the floor that actually has to implement that, and, you know, what kind of communication channels need to be there so that everybody's working towards the same goal and everybody knows what that goal is. You know, and they're excited about that. And that's just, I find that so important. Otherwise, there's so much friction, you can't get anywhere.
No, it is. And, you know, it can be the simplest things, you know. When I first got into manufacturing, you know, you feel like you got to generate some wins, you got things to prove, and you put all this effort into building these processes. And then, you know, you go to roll them out, and they fall flat, you know. And I had my previous boss and owner, that James knows very well. I think he probably grounded me more than anybody else in my career. And it was, you know, it was such a great experience working for him. And I would say my maturity as a professional, you know, that span of time that I was with VTL Precision was probably the biggest maturing I've done throughout my career, because of how he interjected himself into the organization. And I just, as a co-owner of the company, to have a presence out on the floor and ask questions and be interested in what's happening, even though he's at a senior C-suite level, just to watch that and observe those interactions, it was like, I need to model myself after this guy. He knows what he's doing. You know, there's a level of respect because he walks the talk, and he backs it up. And, you know, you can't ask for any better leadership than that.
Yeah, demonstrated leadership is great. And I can vouch for the fact that, you know, whenever I was there, Chris was there, he was present, and to have an owner that's hands-on and also interested in, having discussions with his staff and, being approachable, that's, that's great. That's incredible. It helps
It
when you
was,
don't have 20 layers to the guy at the top or the
yeah,
gal at the
yeah.
top, and that's good example.
No, and he, it was one of the most difficult decisions I've had to make career wise, to move on. And it was simply just for new opportunities. But, our relationship was so strong. And, I'll always remember this. I won't do it. He's British. I'm not going to try to put on a British accent, but
Oh yeah.
I remember one of our earliest, sit down kind of one-to-ones, and he was like, "Vince, you're a really, really smart guy." And I was like, I love where this is going. Like, yeah, come on.
But
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 he said, and you put out some really, really thoughtful processes, but you need to go out on the floor and see how people use them. It's easy to sit in an office and create this, this structure and, a procedure that gives you all the information you need. But once you put it out there and somebody's got to pick up and run with it, you need to see how they're interacting and question and just ensure that you've offered the best tools. And it really resonated because up until that point, I did a lot of that just in my office, closed off, and I'm just looking and researching, and it flipped it for me just to get my butt out of an office and on the floor and just go interact and ask the right questions, and
that's
I've
powerful.
taken that, to where I am today. I mean, everything we do is with our people in mind and trying to get as much input up front as we can before we roll out massive change initiatives,
Yeah, that's actually a good transition about talking about change. And, this year has been such a weird year for everybody. And I know there's been a lot of change. Everybody's kind of in that space of, what is going on, what's happening. And I know that, we actually, even before the interview, talked a little bit about operational trauma. And I want you to talk about that a little bit and kind of what you've come across and what you've seen. I think this year we've probably seen it so much more just because it's such a weird year.
It has been such a weird year, and we're getting into budget season now, so we're kind of going backwards and just trying to pick apart, okay, what made this year weird? I mean, what were the big drivers in the market, in the world? Obviously it was election, there's a lot going on, but even to go backwards, I've been having a lot of different conversations this week, and everything we've talked about how weird this year has been comes with some direction to COVID. And it's either, oh, I remember when this happened during COVID, or this is exactly what happened when we had to shut down, or there's so many anecdotes, and it hit me, these things that happen year over year, and especially when there's massive amounts of change just in our environments. People internalize them, and it impacts the organization in such a dramatic way. Coming from New Orleans, when we moved there in 2010, they were 5 years removed from Katrina, but it was, if you talk to anybody, it was like it happened yesterday.
Right.
And everything that you do in terms of an organization, everybody points to those periods of time, and they can't get past them. And especially this year with COVID still lingering in the background of people's minds, and the things that we had to do just to get by and move to where we are today. and then coming into an organization that was in the middle of a change, for other reasons. There's so much trauma out there, and people internalize it in different ways. And, we've had to be very intentional about the changes we make and communicate very, very well. Even over communicate in a very productive way, just to make sure that people are comfortable and understand and know where they fit into these changes. We're not perfect. There's always things that we could do better. But just moving the organization with that in mind, that all of these events, whether it's past layoffs, harsh economic periods, people take that and they make their judgments about the company they work for and who they're interacting with. And you're always fighting that in their heads, you're always fighting that in their heads. So our messaging has to be, tailored, to those thoughts and open up their perspectives in a different way, just to move us past it.
Yeah. I think we're at a time period where we're just far enough removed from that time that now it's almost kind of like the PTSD is kicking in for everybody of like, okay, we're kind of through it now, so I can breathe a little bit, but yet it's still there. It's still in my head. I still have to mentally deal with those kinds of things that happened during that time.
No, it absolutely is. And then any little event, it just sparks that, it triggers it,
Right.
We went through, even though they were short-lived, we had a port strike this year. The Canadian Rail went on strike. There were so many things that were disrupting normal operations, and you automatically go back to, are we shutting down again? Are we going through this, this period of just unknown, chaos or mayhem? And how are we going to prepare everybody for it? And, how do we combat it?
Yeah.
With that said, Vince, do you see, and how long have you been with your current organization?
Just a year and a half. So I started last June.
Okay. So do you have an example where you're really kind of practicing that Monday morning quarterback, as you said, and you've gone through the mayhem, you've gone through, that there's operational trauma, but by the second, third, fourth time, as an organization and a leadership team, you're doing it better this time. Do you have an example of that you could share?
No, absolutely. So coming in, this is such a great company and a great story. We started, it was a family run business. They started up in New Jersey. They did transloading of rail cars. So I think early on he had maybe 2 or 3 people. Took them about a month to unload a rail car by hand.
Wow.
Today it's we're a 200,000 square foot facility. I've got 2 high-speed packaging lines. So the growth in 40 years for this family-run company has been outstanding. The big change point for this culture, they decided to sell out to a private equity company last year. So the PE company took over in 2024, right before I came in, which has been great. It's opportunity for growth. There's a big strategy in place to acquire and continue to build this business, but it comes with a lot of changes, and there's new expectations. We're operating under a different management team. So to come in and have a group of employees that have been around for 10 years, and they've had this expectation, we've got to move the dial. So it was really important up front that not just me, but our team was in place on the floor daily, working with these guys and just explaining what these changes are and moving together instead of, me moving 3 steps ahead of them.
Right.
That's the big, I think, win for us is we've moved the organization as one instead of departmentally or as individuals.
Okay.
And
So
we'll continue to do that.
so culturally that instills a level of trust as you
Yeah.
continue to grow and expand versus maybe,
Yeah.
that trauma or that concern that, oh, private equity, I'm going to lose my job or things are going to change too quickly or
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we've got the cultural component, and then we've got okay, this was a family run business. Now we've got to grow it up in systems and processes that don't exist.
Right.
And for a large part of these, of our workforce, they've never been exposed to them before. So setting up good quality processes, automating our systems. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'll admit it, up until about 8 months ago, we were keeping inventory, millions and millions of pounds of inventory on index cards,
Wow.
so to make that transition
Right.
to automated systems, and we've done it in such a short span of time. I mean, we've stood up a warehouse management system in just a couple months, and everything is fully automated. It's tracked, but more importantly, our guys are using it on the floor. They understand it. They understand the quality processes we put in place, and they see the impact. I mean, what we do is we partner with chemical manufacturers. So we bring in polyethylene via rail car, and we push it through these automated packaging lines that bag it, palletize it, and wrap it. And we're dealing in millions and millions of pounds of polyethylene pellets a week. So, it's important for us to control and protect the material. Broken bags, spills, all of that adds the cost of non-quality. And there's a safety component as well. As we're stacking up pallets and things are falling over, we want to protect our people. So to put these systems and processes in place and get them using them was a huge win. But now that they can see the actual effect and the results of putting this in place, there's buy-in across the board. They understand it. We've created a more organized, a cleaner, and a safer work environment, and they see it immediately. And those are huge wins that this team gets to take as we continue to move this organization forward.
And they know you're looking out for them.
Absolutely.
In the process of that,
it's not just words. There's real caring and concern, for our people and what we do every day. I mean, we wouldn't get it done without them. And we're all important in this organization. So, the way I look at it, me and my management team, we're here to serve them, and that's it.
Yeah. Servant leadership. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's a reason why you're thrown in the middle of, these fires, Vince. And I could just imagine your wife going, well, you put yourself in these situations. And the reason why is because you're really good and thrive and change organization and people's lives in these situations. So kudos for that. I see it. That's the reason why we reached out, and that's awesome. It's demonstrated, and it's very clear to see that you have a great impact in taking a company from tribal knowledge in the case of the company you're with now and family owned to a formal system that after the growing pains, people, your team feels like, hey, now we couldn't live without these tools, we couldn't live without these processes, so that's great.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, even to take it a step further, we had to define what KPIs were. I mean, it's just you go to that level, but then once you get everybody in that mindset, everybody, we're functioning on a different level, and we've taken the system much further than we even anticipated, where we've given our customers full transparency of their product moving through our organization, which is huge. Again, we walked back 8 months ago, where everything was on paper. And if a customer had a question, you're kind of flipping through index cards, and the lag of communication, what does that instill in our customer in terms of confidence? Now they've got a dashboard that they can go access, and they have full visibility and transparency of their product. It's such a cool thing to see, when you've got engaged, motivated people coming in and just want to build systems that really push the limits and just kick butt. I mean, it's just, it's so cool to sit back and, I'm kind of in a different position now, James, where I'm not building them as much anymore, but I just kind of offer, I get to play devil's advocate and, kind of pick it apart, which is fun now. I get to go through all the pain that I went through early on and the things I learned and say, well, did you consider this? Did you think of this? What if this happens? How will they react? And it just brings a different level of thought to our process building.
Gotcha. So as we close out, that's a good segue to the kind of the final big question is, what do you know now that you would tell your 20-year-old self? What is that one thing that kind of stands out as a difference maker, or something maybe that a leader that you admire taught you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd tell my 20-something-year-old self anything. I think I needed to go through that pain, honestly.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
But
enjoy the pain.
Yeah, in the essence of your question, we it's too easy to give up on things and just move on. I've done it in the past. It's easy when things get tough to abandon and pivot and move in different directions, and really just having the fortitude to stick things out, work through the problems in a very controlled and kind of system-minded way. That's where I'm at with my team is, once you get the chaos out of the way, yeah, we're in a bad spot. Everybody calm down, take a breath. Let's logically work through the problem. First define it, let's truly define it. And then we can start to work through the issues from there. And I think that would have helped me early on in my career, but those were valuable lessons I needed to learn on my own. So, I'm happy to sit in my seat now and support my guys as they're going through the same challenges,
Empathy. That's good too. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Not that our 20-year-old self would listen anyway, but
no, heck no. No way.
Yeah.
Well, as we're going to wrap up, Vince, I really appreciate you being here today. This has been a great conversation. Very much needed too. I mean, I think that, we need to be talking about some of these operational trauma things. Like that definitely is something that stands out to me. I think particularly coming into the time period where now it's an interesting topic. It's something we need to be talking about. I mean, it's kind of like if you were going to therapy, it's the same kind of thing, except for just in
manager, therapist, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little bit, if anybody wanted to reach out to you and contact you, how can they get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's probably the best avenue. Yep. Absolutely. I've got a presence on there. So Vince Lombardy, LinkedIn profile. Yep. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
We'll definitely link that in the show notes so that anybody they needed to can just quickly click. So we really appreciate having you today. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thank
you. We
you.
might have to have you back. There's so much to learn from you and to talk about, and stay tuned for 2026. Maybe we'll have a part 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. We'd be honored.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Vince.
Thank you, guys.
You've been tuning into Mayhem to Mastery, leading transformation from the middle, with your hosts, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on our website, concentricglobal.co. Thank you for joining us.